At 6 o'clock, I call the meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 38, Section 18, and Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Select Board will be conducted both in person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and are parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. Committee members and members of the public may attend this meeting in person or remotely. Instructions for remote access can be found at the top of the meeting agenda. Every effort will be made to ensure that those attending remotely can access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 38, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of public body, any person may make a video, audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is being recorded by the Berkshire Eagle, the Berkshire Edge, Town of Great Barrington. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed. And other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So the first is the call to order the Select Board and Great Barrington Housing Authority joint session. Housing Authority is in full.
We're all here.
We're all here, Select Board is all here. So this is one vote to add a member to the Housing Authority. So do I have a motion?
I make a motion to open the meeting of the Housing Authority.
No,
Oh,
just make a motion to.
yes, I make a motion to appoint Frank Gunsberg to the Housing Authority.
Got a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations, Frank. Or condolences is okay.
We appreciate your service.
We will now adjourn the joint meeting and we'll call the Select Board priority planning meeting to order. Just to give a little overview. Tonight, there was a spreadsheet which is available in the room and will be on the screen that we work from. Tonight, we decide our priority planning for the next 6 months. We don't get into deep detail about any of these subjects. We will talk a little bit about them, but we'll give the marching orders to town staff over what we think are our highest priorities. So first is the Select Board's announcements and statements, and has been on the last 2 meetings tradition. I'll start to discuss Housatonic Waterworks. I know that many people are concerned with what appears to be mixed messaging coming from the Select Board and Board of Health about the town's ability to take legal action against Housatonic Waterworks Company for the subpar water quality being provided to its customers and our residents. I hope my statement at our last meeting and the press release that followed made clear that what our respective roles are. For those of you who missed it, the Select Board is responsible for advocating on behalf of Housatonic Waterworks customers in the rate case currently pending before the Department of Public Utilities. We're also conducting a financial study, the results of which will be shared in October during a public input session. The goal of that study is to better understand what it will cost to acquire and operate the water system for the first 5 years if town voters ultimately decide to pursue that option. The Board of Health, on the other hand, is responsible for fielding public health concerns related to water quality. I met last week by phone with their town manager and an attorney for the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards. They once again confirmed that the Board of Health has a legal authority to act. The chairman of the Board of Health separately also met by phone with the same attorney from the Mass Association of Health Boards. It's my understanding at this time that the Board of Health intends to meet in early August to reconsider their approach. That meeting will be open to the public and posted in accordance with the open meeting law. The select board will await the results of that meeting and trust that the Board of Health will take appropriate action very soon. We're standing by offering our assistance and access to legal counsel to support them. In the meantime, the select board and town hall staff will continue to work on our responsibilities in this matter. We understand how difficult and frustrating this continues to be for the village of Housatonic, and I'm confident we're getting closer to formulating a plan to move forward together as unified boards. Moving ahead, select board's announcement statements, Ben, go right ahead.
I just want to say thank you for that statement and to echo what you said. I hope that the health board does decide to take course on testing, and I want everyone to know, as Steve said, that we will continue to do the work that this board needs to do to bring clean water to Housatonic. Thanks.
Right, to echo that as well, but also wanted to say that Mark has put out just for the people regarding the Brookside Bridge with transportation. There's something that's going out, I believe, on the website, Mark, and
I sent it to the email list for
To the emails.
the neighborhood, every email that we have on file in our office.
okay, so that will explain to them how to that they can park down on the east side without needing any permission and get your rides, walk up the bridge and get your ride. Yeah, thank you.
And the transportation, the micro transit department is aware that they may receive calls, so they'll know what to do when and if a call comes in for a ride on the west side of the bridge.
Thank you, John Villar.
Yeah, just want to say I appreciate the message that you just read, Steve, and looking forward to getting our priorities in order here this evening.
Yes, and thank you for that message. And, you know, as a board, we're unified with the Board of Health, and we really want to help the residents of Barrington. So, you know, whatever comes of this, just know that we are moving together in the right direction. And one other thing that's as an aside, Berkshire Busk is about halfway through their season. They go through August 30th and 31st every Friday night, starting at 6:30. So we just had Latin night this weekend, which is wonderful. And we have a lot of other programs coming up. And as one of the select board liaisons, I'm kind of keeping track of what's happening, but I urge everyone to come down and thank you.
Thanks. First on the under new business is schedule a public information session with David Pricker, consulting BBC on the Housatonic Waterworks financial study. Mark had announced at the last meeting that study will be available by October, so we want to get a meeting scheduled. So everyone has their calendars. Mondays are kind of taken up in October with Indigenous Peoples' Day and 2 select board meetings. So if we want to do it, traditionally, we've also met on Tuesdays. And Mark, do you think earlier in the month the study will be ready and available, or should we go later?
The schedule said late October with a final report by the end of October, so I would shoot for maybe the week of
The 28th?
21st.
Well, let's just go on the 28th. It's a Monday.
Of October.
Yeah, if everyone's available.
That works.
Does that work for everyone?
So we have one on the 28th of October, or 21st and 28th.
Yeah, we'll have it the 7th, 21st and 28th. That's correct.
And DPC should have a draft report available that evening. Representatives from DPC will be here, and then you'll receive a final report within a week or so after that.
Super.
Sounds great. Okay, we'll send out an invite.
We'll schedule.
Perfect. Thank
6
you.
o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And I did check with DPC to see if they had any conflicts during that time, and they did not, so that they should work fine for them as well.
Great. So then we get into priority planning discussion. So just a few reminders, especially not for the select board, but we've all done this before. So there are 3 categories: high priority, moderate, and moderate priority projects. And we discussed mostly the high priority projects tonight. We may take some things off because they're completed, or we may add something to it. I would say, and the select board knows this, that adding to this adds to the plate of town hall staff and the select board. And we already have 3 fairly large items already. One which is on here, Housatonic Waterworks. 2 are on here. and the other is infrastructure, which will be taking up a lot of time. So usually when we try to add something, we hope to take off something. And then the third is we're involved in a number of lawsuits which take up a large amount of staff time. So let's, keep that in mind without overwhelming and then not being able to accomplish what we really want to accomplish. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mark, Chris, Bill's here, I think, and the chiefs, so.
Just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
We lost Chris here. He's gonna share his screen for the folks and attending remotely, so you're not. Are you coming? No. You rejoined. So I'll go ahead and get us started. Chris is gonna get the priority planning sheet up on the screen here in just a minute. I just wanted to mention also that this document lives on our website. There's a tab on the select board page. We reposted just before these meetings and updated version. And then we post it again within a week or so after these meetings, so that there's always a current version. Date is listed right at the top, so you'll know what version you're looking at, but if you're ever looking for a copy of this document, outside of these meetings, that's where it lives, or you can email my office and we'd be happy to share a copy with you. Staff's here tonight to provide updates on the high priority items on this list. Joe just came in, Rebecca should be joining us in just a minute. And I'll get us started with the first topic, which is Houston Waterworks.
And just because there was a little confusion about this, the topics on here are not in any order. Housatonic Waterworks says number one, and that is number one, but there was an article that had said that these were in priority order. They are not.
They're actually in alphabetical
Yeah,
order.
yeah.
Housatonic Water, we added number one because you had asked at one time to move that right to the top.
Yes, but there was some confusion that this was a priority order, and it is not.
Okay, so Housatonic Waterworks, Steve, you shared a pretty thorough update. I have a few things to add tonight. Again, I know I've said this many times, but I want to remind everyone that our relief program is in place. We're still accepting applications for reimbursements of up to $300 per household. And that's the costs associated with the purchase and installation of water filtration units, laundry related expenses, and for bottled water purchases. Those applications are available here. There's paper copies in my office. There's paper copies downstairs in the lobby. And there's also a fillable PDF on our website if you prefer that option. The final step, our financial study, which we just mentioned, is underway with our engineering team at DPC. We can expect a final report in late October. This board also continues to push back and challenge the AG's proposed settlement with Housatonic Waterworks, and a decision should be delivered any day now. I'm expecting that decision to be made by August 1st, unless an extension is granted, but I'm not aware that any extension has been requested at this point. So that's all I have. I'm assuming this remains a high priority, and I think that goes without saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got would like to add to that if we.
Yeah, go ahead.
Discussion now. I would like to add on to that list that maybe town staff started seeking, counsel for, I feel that at the end of this, cost analysis, we're getting ready to put it in front of the voters. So I'd like, town staff to start, sorting out town council to lead us in the right direction as far as navigating, whether the citizens vote to take over the public waterworks there, make it public, to have the proper counsel to lead us in the right direction for the whole process.
Thanks, Erica. I did slip my mind, yeah. Someone who specializes in utility acquisitions. Special counsel.
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and just communications, I think, just to get ready for, because I think communications is gonna be so important. with this whole process and, making sure that we're actually in Housatonic having this conversation, obviously, and that we're giving enough time in advance so people know to show up. But I think it's, communication, getting ahead of some of the rumors and, letting people know the steps. I think part of this is people's frustration, not knowing what happens when they get this feasibility study, what happens when the AG's decision comes in. So I think the more that we can anticipate some of the questions and the anxiety and make sure that our meetings are Housatonic, I think that'll be really helpful.
We'll put a lot of energy into advertising that public input session. Facebook, Instagram, our website, we'll issue a press release, we'll do a code red call that week. And we'll do everything we can to get the word out that the public is invited.
Thank you.
Okay. Next topic is affordable and workforce housing. Chris is gonna take this one.
Sure, well, as the board is aware, this has been one of the most active areas that staff has been working on with the select board, the housing trust, the planning board, the community, the CPA, the community preservation committee have all been very active in this area. Focusing on rehabilitating existing units and trying to keep people in homes that are already affordable, but also creating new units. And so, as this board's aware, we spent well more than half of the ARPA funds that we received on housing. CPA grants last town meeting were well over half of the CPA grants appropriated. And so far, since CPA began, it's been about 40% of the spending on CPA all time. Totaling about 3.4 million of CPA so far on affordable housing. We are wrapping up a community development block grant soon that's been focused on providing housing rehab funds for low income and elderly folks who want to stay in their homes. It's focused on for families, especially on lead remediation, fixing electrical issues, code compliance, and new roofs and boilers, things that keep a home livable. There were 15 grants under that 15 rehab projects under that $1.3 million grant. And then just last week, the Healy Driscoll administration announced that we'll be getting another 1.3 million for 15 projects, but those 15 will be shared between us, Stockton, and Egerton. So that's really great news, and we thank all of our partners for that. Town meeting passed again a number of zoning use changes that are important to allow more housing units in more places in town in accordance with the master plan. Some of the upcoming projects include the North Plain Road project with Habitat for Humanity and the Housing Trust. Construction bids are due back very soon, in a week or two. And hopefully we can get substantial completion of that road by the end of May next year. So that will allow building 20 homes up there off North Plain Road. The Housing Trust has an accessory dwelling unit pilot program teeing up to try to create some affordable, low cost, easy build accessory dwelling units. So we're working with town council on that. And one thing that's not listed here that we continue to do is look at taxes that the town is properties that the town is taking in tax foreclosure as potential opportunities for housing. That's a quick summary.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris, just, I missed it when you were saying, the CPA funds. What was the total that went towards affordable housing?
So far, it's been about 3.4 million.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question on the liens you mentioned. Do you have a kind of a number of properties that might be coming up and they'll be keeping track of that? And the second question related to that is the Attorney General's abandoned housing initiative, if we've thought about partnering with Construct or other receivers or going on our own.
Our treasurer's office maintains a list of properties that are in tax title or in active foreclosure. I don't know the number. It's not a lot. that, and it's not a lot that the town actually ends up taking.
We did auction off several parcels a few years
I
ago,
remember that, yeah.
so we've been keeping up with it.
And a model that worked well there was, for example, the house up on Grove Street that the town took in foreclosure. Town meeting transferred it to the Housing Trust. Housing Trust put out an RFP and Habitat for Humanity. Then rehabbed it and was able to sell at affordable prices, so the permanent affordability restriction. So that's a good model. The Attorney General's program that Lee mentioned is a way where a town can encourage property that is otherwise paying their taxes, and the town doesn't really have immediate control over. To the town can refer that property to the Attorney General for to put into receivership to try to rehab the program. It doesn't necessarily mean it can be affordable housing, but there are some receivers who take those properties and will rehab them for that specific purpose. So that's something that we have not been able to follow up on yet, but it's in our toolbox, if you will.
You just say that beginning part, you said that the town was taking for the Attorney General, even though these people are paying taxes, is that what you said? That they were doing?
There are cases where properties, they're not in tax title, they're not, they're paying the taxes, but maybe they're not being maintained, there's building code violations or health code violations. The Attorney General can take a partial possession, if you will, through a receivership program and rehab the property to the extent that it will meet those, it will fulfill those code deficiencies. And in some cases, then that receiver, that person who's doing that work will then turn it into a permanently affordable.
So if we get to the point that there is a home that the town is controlling, that'll come to our awareness and we could have a discussion on what happens, whether it's auctioned off to the higher bidder or goes to nonprofit or it goes into the AG's program. Is that?
I have another question myself. Is there any reason why somebody like, well, anyway, these people are have some of the issues that you're speaking of, not keeping up the code, et cetera, et cetera. Is there any reason why we would not fix it for those people to be able to stay in their home? Because obviously they aren't they're financially solvent.
In most cases where the Attorney General program is involved, the property's been completely abandoned.
Oh.
But perhaps somebody in the family is still
Okay.
paying the taxes on the asset. But there's nobody there in the home in most cases.
So they would get first dibs. They
Thank
would try their
you. That
best
was
to
my
make
next
sure
one.
that
They
it
have
stayed
to-
into.
Very good, thank you.
I did have a
That sounds
question.
fair.
Yeah, the senior tax deferral, if we have any sense of, I know there was a change, but if, and I don't want to take up the whole thing about housing, but just, when we're looking at the senior tax deferral and, how many people have taken it up since the change and what's the movement? On that.
That would be a question for our assessor, but
Okay.
the last time I checked in with him, I believe there were only 1 or 2 people
System.
taking advantage of that program.
Last I spoke with Ross, it was just one person.
Yeah,
Mm,
I think he received 2 applications, but
One didn't want to give us paperwork.
mm.
But I know, well, all right, I'll wait for another time, because we had that on the docket for changing the amounts and tax, and I don't think we ever got to that.
no.
So
So,
interesting.
yes. So I assume we're gonna leave this as a high priority item. Any reason we wouldn't. Any questions from the board?
Good with that.
The ambulance service center.
Okay, this is a
Yeah.
topic on our high priority list, but it's also rated as long term in the rating column. But there has been renewed interest in making this a high priority item, thanks to Representative Pignatelli. He's been hosting regular working meetings with stakeholders in Lennox for his entire district. And as a result of these meetings, the group will be applying for a community compact grant with GB as the host community. And that grant would fund a study, most likely the consultant would be the Collins Center at UMass. To look at a regional approach to EMS services here in South County, and look at service delivery and report back with recommendations. So if you remember, there was a 2018 study completed. It was a similar study, but it focused more on fire services, and the information in that report at this point is outdated. It's not really relevant, since it predates the COVID pandemic. And as we all know, the world is a very different place in 2024 than it was in 2018. So the good news is there's renewed interest again in looking at this regional approach to EMS services. And I think working as a group, we're going to be able to make some serious progress. So I'll be giving you updates pretty regularly on this topic going forward.
I have a question. So along with that, I know that there's a letter that they were circulating to get the towns to sign up if they want to participate. And so I'm part of this, this team that's looking at this. And there was a deadline of August 16th to have towns sign up if they want to be part of this feasibility study. So I'm wondering if we're going to see that, or is that something you sign yourself and say we're interested in participating?
No, I'm actually bringing that to the board at your August 12th meeting.
Okay.
So you should see that in your packet for the 12th. And really all it is just committing to participating in the research, committing to providing data, and committing to appointing a representative from the town to be the point person. That's all it is.
Great.
So you'll see a draft commitment letter in your packet, assuming you approve it on the 12th, we'll sign it and return it to the EMS working group in time for the 16th deadline.
Thank you.
I would assume the board would want to move this from long range to a priority one.
Yes. So
Like, do you have a motion?
I make a motion to move the EMS study to, from long range to priority one.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Perfect. The focus of this, and this isn't something we have to vote on. The responsible department was the fire department. I don't know if that, the focus has changed, and that's probably town manager.
Yeah, the original, again, the 2018 study focused more, it was an ambulance / fire study. So I think that's why it was assigned to the fire department, but I will update that and assign it to my office. for now.
Perfect. Anyone else? Cook's Garage property, it sounds like a Chris.
The Cook's Garage property in Housatonic is 426 Park Street, part of the old mill complex. The town foreclosed on that several years ago and now owns it. We've been able to complete a few studies on that property, as this board is aware, including some environmental assessments, hazardous building materials survey assessment. There was even some contamination that we were able to remove. And we were able to complete a market study and financial feasibility study with the help of EPA's assistance program. So as reported at your last meeting, we're kind of, holding pattern here, consulting with the Housatonic Improvement Committee. The planning board and HIC met a couple of months ago to talk about the property, and the HIC was interested in hearing the planning board's take on the property and zoning of the property and how it could be redeveloped or disposed of. So we're still in a holding pattern here. Maybe the HIC will have some more discussions about it. and maybe the select board wants to move forward in some way, but that's about all I have to report at the moment.
Could you just, because I wasn't part of that, or can you give us a kind of sense of the, you know, when you say the feasibility study, where are we in terms of what came out of?
It was a market study looking at various, commercial, residential, or mixed-use redevelopment options. And it included, financial feasibility worksheet, where you could input different programs of use, let's say 10 residential units and a 5,000 square feet of retail. Look at current market rates and see where that fell out and versus the cost to actually redevelop the building. So it included that kind of workbook that the HIC or the select board or staff could use moving forward to see, test what it's feasible.
Is that something that we could, is it published or it's posted on the website?
Yes,
Or- okay.
no, I'm sure you've all received it. I probably sent it last.
Yeah, it's just asking.
So the question for both Ben and Eric is if we gave you a date, can you come back to us with a recommendation?
I think we are moving towards that. That was our last meeting. We kind of were hoping by end of September to kind of, or get the ball rolling. One question I know that we have is just the stability of the building and whether or not we have any information on how feasible, like, it will be to actually repurpose the building as it is versus just using the footprint for something else.
We didn't do a structural assessment.
Yeah.
Some of the walls are really solid.
The roof is not.
The roof
Yeah.
is not.
Yeah.
So that may be one of your recommendations.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's probably, you know, we have a lot of ideas and we're gathering community input, but that's the big question, right? What can actually be done with the existing building?
Yeah, and I think we're, our last discussion was we're basically looking to do something similar as we did with the Housatonic School. And so we have basically a couple volunteers that are gonna do like maybe I'll pronounce it wrong, but like a matador photoing of the building, so we can get a rough set of prints of layout. And then we're gonna plan on a charrette with a bunch of engineers coming, which we found was very helpful last time, not only with like getting the word out about the building, but creating ideas. And then at the end of the day, one of the architects was heavily involved with the project that is moving forward at the Housatonic School. So that's the route we're going. I do think we are looking to be, you know, it's our main topic on our agendas. And I do think that we're looking to bring something to the board at like the beginning of next year or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the sooner the better, so that's great. As
Yeah.
long as someone's working on it, that's
Yeah,
terrific.
we are actively working on it.
Okay, great. We won't give you a drop dead date, and we'll put pressure on you. Anyone else have questions?
Yeah.
If it's a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go to the microphone, that's how you get heard at home. And state your name and address.
My name is Frank Dunsberg. I live at 26 Hemlock Hill in Great Barrington. Not an engineer, but I have a lot of real estate experience, especially with contaminated properties. The only question I have is that from my experience, anyone who contaminates property cannot avoid liability if the contamination, if the property is sold or taken back. There is still a liability question as to who's responsible for paying for the cleanup. Now, sometimes there's an entity that doesn't have financial capability, but I'm just asking a question. Has this been investigated? And did you just automatically assume, I'm not faulting it, but I'm just saying, and did you automatically assume that this would wind up being something on the town? Or is that something that you have investigated? Whatever, I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
First, you want to answer this?
Sure. As I mentioned, the property was taken for back taxes and foreclosed upon. The previous owners have, there's no financial ability there. We have, using grant funds, completed environmental assessments, and there's, maybe some mercury switches and limited contaminate hazardous materials in the building materials, lead, things like that. But there's no major source of contamination that is going to stop or redevelopment or progress. on the project.
Anyone else on Cook Scratch? Employee recruitment and retention.
Okay, so this is another relatively new priority. We added this last year at this time. Something we're continuing to work on internally. Our HR director has streamlined the recruitment and onboarding process. Having her here full-time has really helped with that when positions do become vacant. She's in the process of updating our personnel policies now. And as you recall, when we started this, you may recall, when we started working with this priority planning sheet 5 years ago, creating personnel policies was a priority. In 2019, our personnel policies consisted of a double-sided sheet of paper, and now we have a comprehensive personnel policy manual for our staff and for management to navigate issues when they're needed. So for our January session, again, I'll plan to have Sophia attend and provide a much more in-depth update, but overall, I'm feeling much more confident about our hiring process, our onboarding process, and our ability to attract and retain qualified employees. A lot more confident than I was maybe 2 years ago, so.
Do you still think this needs to be a 1 now? Gonna be a 2?
Yeah, I was gonna actually suggest we move it down.
Yeah, I think this could probably, it will always be a high priority for us here. But I'm not sure it needs to be a high priority of the board. At this point, you could probably move this to.
I'm not sure we shouldn't just take it off, because by hiring HR person,
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
that should, yeah,
I think so.
I think it should just get removed. Do you have a
So
motion?
I make a motion
That's
to
what I thought.
remove the employee recruitment and retention item.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Doesn't mean we're ignoring it, it means that we, at least it has someone who's in charge of it now.
Yeah.
Heating and cooling centers.
Just gonna take this one.
Joe, as we usually do, you can then take all of yours now and
Okay.
that'll work. Because a lot of them are yours.
You can take mine too.
Yeah.
So as far as the heating and cooling centers, progress we made in the last year is we held on to the generator that come out of the PD. We had it refurbished for small dollars. And it's currently sitting in the DPW storage at the transfer station. We've also brought up to code the transfer switch and the plug at the Housatonic Community Center. So in the time of need, we just have to bring the generator down there, plug it in, and we would have emergency power. So that's one positive step there. We'll eventually get it on a trailer and make it easier to move around. It's a 3-phase generator, so we gotta move it to a police station, a fire station, always be on that too. So it's a nice little backup asset to have. As far as the next steps, we tried to put a commercial kitchen in the budget for the senior center as a next step, but it didn't make the budget for budget reasons. So those would probably be the next steps for both of the facilities. Get 1 or 2 of them up with a commercial kitchen, so we have them ready to go. And also, if we decide to let the public use them for events, it would be a nice thing to have too.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
All right, I just want to go back to the generator. So we have to move it, is there anything like it's not there or make it easier and quicker? Or it sounds like it's gonna be work to move it
So,
and time consuming if it's,
yeah,
why isn't it closer or on site?
right now, because we didn't have a trailer or to put it, something to put it on or an enclosure to put it in, we didn't want it just to sit there and deteriorate. So we got it fixed and we have it set up there to move it down there. It would take an hour or so to put it on a trailer and bring it down. It can be set up there permanently as time goes on, if that's the wishes. But
But in my wish, I don't know, everybody else.
the thought was to keep it mobile, so it could be used in any one of 3 places. We do emergency generator at the police station and fire station, but if something was to fail there, it could go there too, if it was in a trailer.
But, I mean, let me just be one more little devil's advocate there. If it's gonna be on a trailer, then what's the difference if it's there or not? It's gonna have to be moved anyway, and it's gonna be mobile from there as well, if it's on a trailer.
If it's on a trailer, it's not in the weather. Right now, it's
Right.
indoors. So it's protected, you just have to pull it out and start it a couple times a year to make sure it runs. So, we can do whatever, we can permanently mount it there, if that's what the wishes are.
Well, I don't know so much that I'm looking for it to be permanently mounted there, but it seems like the place where it should reside, or at least most of the time, that's going to be probably our central heating spot, so I don't know why it couldn't be stored there under other or something. And then removed from it. Yeah. That's my.
I just had a question about like emergency, shelters as, you know, in a general thing, since we're talking about heating, cooling. And it was, said to me about the high school that that's like really the largest gathering space if there was an emergency. And I'm kind of working that into the emergency, you know, the cooling and heating centers. And would you be able to speak to that if there was something, is that true that that's the place that people will go to, or is there another spot? I mean, obviously, if you're closer to the senior center.
I think Mark or the chiefs.
I just promoted the chief,
Oh,
he's
okay.
our emergency,
Okay.
management director, and his mic is open if he wants to comment. You're welcome to, Joe, I just thought you might have some comments.
Paul
to share.
knows the detail.
Chief?
I do know that you guys have arrangements with, is it Berkshire South, Summers Rock, and the school district?
Shelters, school district and Simon's Rock.
Summers Rock.
Oh, it's Simon's Rock too.
Yeah. Cool center, I believe.
But
Chief, your
there are
mic is
also
open.
other people's shelters too, they're not just ours.
Yes, yeah. Reach.
I mean, you got a great asset in the community center right in the center of the village too, which is nice.
Yeah, and I was just wondering about capacity and, you know, just to put that on people's radars, because, you know, as we get into climate change and heating and cooling emergencies, and God forbid something else, so people know, you know, where the locations could be.
The two that I just mentioned are actually regional
Yeah,
shelters, but. I think the chief might be having an issue with his mic here.
We can bring that back to another meeting. Fairview Hospital has a role in that also with the chief.
Yeah, the Southern Berkshire. Licensing Planning Committee
Yes.
is very much involved in that.
yeah, it might just be a good discussion in general, just maybe at some point to have it on people's radars, just so they know.
Well, I think then if you have that discussion, you can help determine the priority and take it the next steps. And see what's
Exactly.
on the funding list.
Just thought, is the public aware of these places?
I don't think.
I wouldn't have known unless they heard.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what.
But they would make them aware of it when there's an emergency.
That includes them.
No, of course, they would do a code red, so I'm just
Yeah.
thinking it just in people's, you know, consciousness to say. If there was, if these are the, and we're making decisions with budgeting, you know, like we want to make sure that we have access to these things.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with posting it ahead of time instead of waiting for the incident. There's nothing wrong with having it
Mm.
posted. And then when the incident comes, then you sound the alarm. People are already aware. I don't.
It's a little out of our league. There's an emergency planning committee that would handle all of that.
Okay, well, then
Yeah,
I think they
just-
should then.
Just like we did when we were opening vaccination clinics during COVID. We saw a lot of information being pushed out from Fairview Hospital, from the Southern Berkshire Emergency Planning Committee, from the towns. Pointing you to a specific building at a specific time, and the same thing would happen in the event of an emergency. The chief is having, I'm just texting with him, he's.
Oh, that's good. I just wanted to bring that into the discussion as a general, we don't
I
have
think
to.
it's a good discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
prioritize it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe just add to this, if this stays, you know, to add / emergency shelters.
Yeah.
Discussion, just to make it. more
Yeah,
broad.
that makes sense. Joe, continue on.
So, the next one down, the Woodstock Community Center, that we're evaluating the heating system, which we've already initiated, and they've been there evaluating, waiting for the report. So that report will tie into, there is no cooling in the community center now, and it's very hot in the summer in there, so, The insulation work has helped a lot to keep it cool in the summer. But, you know, we'll know that expense if we were looking to install cooling there, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months.
And is that grant funded? Do you have grants that you may look at?
We can turn around and pursue a green communities grant. Right now, we're waiting to hear back on a green communities grant to finish up the building management system for Mason and some building management, training for the crews. And then the next green communities grant I was gonna chase was in October, I believe, was for the PD. Getting and cooling at the PD.
Good.
So this could, you know, there would be work in there. They usually let that go for one at a time, finish it up and go for the next one.
Good. Lee?
Any other questions?
Just the grant, I'm just curious, when you come, when you find these grants, are they coming through like Chris, or are you kind of looking at grants yourself that are specific to the APW? So you guys are just sharing information and.
Yeah, so we exchange it. Also, you know, consultants we use like Ty and Bond and Foresight. They're quick to tell us vendors. They say.
Oh, great.
Like the bottleneck grant, we were talking about some early detection warning for the underpasses and stuff, and the vendors said, hey, just so you know, there's a bottleneck due tomorrow. I'm like, what's that? Looked it up when we submitted.
Great.
So.
And would you talk to other towns too, like?
Regional planning.
Yeah, yeah.
Berkshire
Okay.
Regional Planning, actually, Berkshire Regional Planning actually files the these grant books for short money. So, yeah, but I mean, any resource we can find out about the grants.
Yeah,
And the Mass DOER competitive grant cycle opens up the same time every year.
Yeah.
It's on our operations calendar, so we're aware of it.
gotcha.
So the next one is infrastructure, the road bridges, sidewalks, things like that. I'm not gonna take you through a multi-page thing about projects like I did in the past, but Mark, if we did this item here, and I think the message I'm trying to share with you tonight is how important our roadway and bridge infrastructure is and what it supports, and all the Bay State classes that I've attended and seminars. Your roads are basically your most valuable asset in town. It supports everything, police, fire, you know, the community, the businesses and things like that. So that's basically the summary on the first page. Maybe I'll take you to this page next. Okay, which is basically the lifespan of a roadway. And you know, when you first redo a road, you're in the excellent range for a bridge. Then you go to good, better, poor, third, or fail. It seems as if we as a town in the past have done roads, and then we let them deteriorate and go work on something else, and then as it comes back around, we have the high dollar to do it. They've done, in the past, they've done some crack sealing, and it disappeared from the budget for a little bit. So last year we had a very aggressive crack sealing, which is, we used to crack seal around 10,000 linear feet of road last year, which adds life to, and it's cheap to do, and it adds life to it. So some of our newly paved roads, you might see us crack sealing just to keep the water out of it. So you're up in, the green to the light yellow area where you're paying, where your $1 or $2 go a long ways. That same $1 or $2, if you let our roads deteriorate, you're in the $12 to $20 range. So it's very advantageous to spend money in preventative maintenance. Unfortunately, those percentages, we have all our roads evaluated through an asset management program, which I think was rated back in 2020, I think. And it has a mechanism in it that it changes the status of the roads for every year that goes by, and we input the new roads and things like that. So basically 50% of our roads are in the expensive area to take care of. So you might look and say, geez, how come Great Barrington here, we only did 3 roads and another town might have did 5? Well, maybe theirs are better and they just overlaid them, but we had to grind them up and reclaim them and stabilize them and make them right. So I guess the message from that is we're not in the best of shape and not the worst of shape. And it's good to spend some infrastructure money. This last one here is basically analysis of this. It's been, I think, around 2012 that Main Street was done, and there hasn't been much done to Main Street since. Main Street is starting to fall apart, and they may not look it to the untrained eye. But if you get out there and look at the blacktop, the sand on the surface is gone, the aggregate's starting to show. Where we turn around and seal it, it prolongs the life in 3 to 5 years. So what you see here is on the orange line. Is the basic maintenance over like a 45-year lifespan of the road. And spending, $500,000 to keep that road in good shape. And what you see in the yellow and the blue line is basically, hey, do nothing for 14 or 15 years. Interrupt your town for 8 weeks in the summer and pave it. And do it again in 15 years, and you spend $2.5 million, $2.25 million. So I'm just trying to give you in a model what preventative maintenance can help us do. So, our approach right now, given where we are, is to do some of both. Preserve what we've done, but chase some of the stuff that needs work. And every road in our town has a rating number. Every section of road in between streets has a rating number, and that's kind of what we gear things towards, as well as taking into account, is it a main road, is it a secondary road, things like that. So, to give you guys the confidence that we're spending the taxpayer money in the right areas. So I won't get into any of the particular roads, but the more money you give us, the more we'll do with it. But I guess I just want everybody to walk away from here realizing what a major priority it is. So let me touch on bridges quickly too. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, I want, because I want to support the work that you do and the work that your department does, and I know every year when it comes down to budgeting, it's always the first thing it seems to be pushed aside, and, so what can we do better as a board to support you and not have it always come down to last minute of budget, and, this is what we have in the capitalizations, I don't know what we have right now in the capitalization,
Like 1.3 million or something.
yeah,
We
stabilization.
really don't.
But anyways, just to kind of not have that discussion, and this is super helpful, and I wonder if we should have this, maybe another time during the year, just to remind us as, taxpayers that this is gonna come up again for discussion, and these
And
are the
maybe at the
reasons.
beginning of budget season, we just talk about it.
Yeah,
I'm looking at this as my role to share with you some of the stuff I learned and educate you guys, but also the finance committee and the general public, so they understand why we're doing it.
yeah,
We have things, I think, to answer your question on support, you guys really did support us. Because the select board and the finance committee said, hey, we want to move forward with engineering. We didn't stop that. We made us stop some of the road work. But by funding the engineering money, we're doing the preliminary work on like Seacon Crossing, with 41 and 183. We have intentions to get 183 on the TIPS program in 2029, maybe 2030. But so we got to maintain that road until then. So we're going to take some action before then. So by giving us that funding, it lets us get projects shovel ready. Such that if grant opportunities come up, we can take quick advantage of it. So I think that move was just, discussed in the budget process, which was a big help.
And come on.
Well, I just wanted to ask.
No, you have to come to the microphone, identify yourself.
Anna Dwyer, 26 Kirk Street. I just wanted to ask if that handout could be made available to other
Sure.
folks. It's a little hard to see. And I just also want to reiterate as a member of the finance committee that I think getting more information sooner about what we're looking at in terms of infrastructure and capital spending. And I really would love to see, and I've talked to members of the finance committee, and I know we've talked about as a committee about this, starting to think about, well, what are the long range estimates? And, I think rather than sort of seeing this up and down every year, what should we be budgeting for on a regular annual basis to keep with the infrastructure upgrades?
Maybe if I could just offer a little bit of input on that. One of the facts that I shared with both groups in budget season was that at the rate we're taking care of our roads and paving our roads, every road in town will get done once every 43 years. That is nowhere near enough. So, but I'll be going to try to get more of a long range plan together to share.
That's great.
Frank, go ahead.
Frank Dunsberg, I'm still at 26 Hemlock Hill. In any event, this is a naive question. The federal government passed the Roads, Bridges and Tunnels Act for the infrastructure. I'm assuming that part of funding may or were requesting, or hopefully some of it's being taken care of, because, for example, bridges, it's really a terrible thing in this town with what's going on with the bridges, but I know it's a long-standing thing. I have one other thing I want to mention, which is the next topic, just so I say it, so I don't have to go back and forth. I think the green line here, the Main Street pedestrian safety and traffic, I think you've done a great job, but unfortunately, anytime I'm in the middle of town, and I sit there in front of Fuel, for example, and have a cup of coffee, I noticed that less than half the people are pushing the button. And I had recommended in an email that we should put on the sidewalk, push button to stop traffic, and then I thought a better way to do it would be just to have a motion sensor at each of those locations. So nobody has to do anything. As soon as you start walking across the street, the light goes, flashes, and that way nobody has to do anything, because I'm worried somebody's gonna get hurt or killed. Because drivers sometimes don't even respect the flashing light, but in any event, at least it goes on and there's a motion sensor. I'm sorry to say that.
Don't continue.
I will take a quick minute on bridges, but we, I think what most of you have seen, we have taken the bridges that we own and we have put them in a chart and created a high level asset management program for that. And surprisingly, I was very comforting when I seen that, in a way that, the town already had a plan for Division Street. Cottage Street was in the queue. You had a plan for for Brookside, where the Division Street Bridge was gonna go. Which, when I started, I put that in motion. We started surveying stuff down there. So, you know, we were being very active about it, just time calls. And just so you know a little further, if you recall from the budget process, the next bridge to be looking at was Division Street over Wayne's River, which it looks terrible from above, but it's actually in pretty good shape. And we submitted like an $800,000 request, which should give us another 45 years on that, but again, it didn't make the budget. So we have that one pretty much ready to go. And we're doing the same thing for Hurlburt, which is the next one in line. So we're trying to be proactive. I met with the consultants that time on that's working with us on the bridges. And after Brookside closed, I'm like, what did we miss here? You know, what's the lessons learned from here? Because here we have ratings of 5s and 6s and 1 4, and all of a sudden we're closed. I'm like, am I looking at one? They were as shocked as I was. As soon as they heard it was closed, they went to the reports and said, why? So clearly something deteriorated a lot faster than we all planned. So there is forward thinking going on. There's a Mass DOT has a small bridge program, which one of our bridges qualified for. We applied for it for the last 2 years and weren't successful, and we'll apply for it again this year. So, again, we're actively chasing this. Unfortunately, we're catching up too. So that's kind of all I have on infrastructure, unless you got specific questions.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm Lynn Fagan, 101 Brushville Road. Joe, so what are we doing about the Brookside Road Bridge? I mean, you've identified the problem, but what are we doing?
I think that's been, unless you want to take that, Mark.
No, go ahead.
I think the town has been perfectly clear on the position that the state has taken over. The task of engineering and paying for a replacement. So that's the current path. That's what we're doing.
So is that acceptable to have 7 years to wait for?
So first of all, I don't know where you got the 7 years, but we really need accurate information. No one has said 7 years. So this meeting is about priority planning. And I think Mark has answered this in the past, and we are working with the state on this. But information like saying 7 years, is just not helping things at all.
I am doing my very best to share the information that we receive as a town with everyone up in the Brookside Road neighborhood. If I don't have your email, please share it with me and I'll put you on that list. But we're looking at more like 4 years right now.
Name and address, please.
Deborah Ryan, 116 Rush Hill Road. I'm under the impression that we have spoken independently to the Mass DOT, and they have responded to us that the bridge is really, it belongs to the town and therefore it's the town's problem. So if there is any recourse coming from the state that you're waiting for, we have not been made aware of it, and we'd like to know what's happening.
Mark's been very clear about that.
I feel like we're getting sort of ping pong back and forth between the Mass DOT and the town, because
I don't know what to
well,
tell you.
it's the town's bridge, and
It is a town's bridge, but Mark's been very clear about this.
well, he's been clear that it will take 7 years and perhaps.
No, never said so.
Well, okay, it was plus or minus 4. And then, I'm sorry, this is beyond the scope of the question, but it's just not acceptable. Yeah. I've been speaking.
Name and address, please.
Sorry, my name is Tamara Halpern, I live at 107 Brush Hill Road. I've spoken to both Michael McCabe and Mark Devaney. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce his last name. It's very clear from my conversations that there's repair that is the town's responsibility and replacement, which is the state's responsibility. And prior to total replacement, it's the town's responsibility if and only if you choose to do any repair. And from what I understand, to do repair, you could do what you did with Division Street. You could retain a Teague and Bond to come in and do a replacement assessment. You could make plans to utilize the Division Street Bridge. You could make plans to get a repair from other sources within the state. You could apply for funding to do these things. That's all your responsibility, not the state's.
So let me just answer this and we're gonna move on. Mark gave this
I'm
information.
sorry, which Mark are you speaking to?
There's only one of
I'm
us here.
sorry, I don't know, either Mark,
So,
I'm
So-
sorry.
so
The Mark I spoke to is different.
Right.
Mark.
so it would still take up to 3, maybe 4 years to do repair. So
Well,
it's,
it's 4 years for permitting alone. That's what I've been told.
no, it's 4 years for the process to go through the whole
That's
process.
not what the state has told.
Well, we're gonna tell you what we've been told.
It hasn't been 4 years for Division Street, for sure, correct? Division Street's still not being replaced, and it's 4 years.
The Division Street Bridge is in the fiscal 25 Mass DOT
No, it's
budget.
26. I've just been told tonight. It's been pushed a year to 2026.
That information has not been shared with the town.
And that is true or is not true? I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said.
That information has not been shared with the town. The report
Okay.
that I printed last week still had it listed as fiscal
Well,
25.
I understand it's been put, I could be wrong, but that comes from the state, and I heard that tonight, 2026. I've also heard that the rehab bridge will not fit on Brookside, and I understood you guys funded it with the hope of it serving both bridges. There's a 7-foot difference between the two bridges, which was unanticipated. I'm not an expert on this. All I know is that those of us on Brookside, well, I'm going to defer because.
You're not deferring to anyone. We're moving on with planning. You can talk to the citizens.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm done speaking. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Joe, do you have other things on the list to go through? Okay, so let's go to Housatonic Fiber.
Housatonic fiber optic project, we should be entering the construction phase this calendar year. The board will recall that town meeting authorized a capital expenditure for this. The town did get a $250,000 grant from the state to help with this as well. We issued an RFP for contractors earlier this year, and we had 2 respondents. We chose Berkshire Fiber Connect. And they'll be starting to build out, as I said, this calendar year. So what that will do is deliver a fiber optic line up Stockbridge Road, up Route 183 into the core of Housatonic Village. Then it can be expanded from there, but having this backbone or this spine of fiber optic is absolutely critical. It will also serve the fire department, library, and the Boozy Dome. in the core of the village, which is excellent. And provide a permanent, dedicated line for town building, just town web traffic only. So a number of really important, town benefits as well as broader overall public benefits. And, the last component of that is setting up a fiber optic backed public Wi-Fi system in the village. So in places in the village where your cell phone calls drop because of poor cell coverage, you'll be able to make Wi-Fi calls.
Is that another grant that we have to get that,
Part of-
that's part of
part of
this,
this.
and that's a matching, so 250, the grant that we received was a matching grant, that's,
It's part of the overall project. The overall project's like 700,000 or something like that. The builders also contributed.
oh, that's right. And the timeline, we think, will be
This year.
this year, like the end of, oh, this year,
Should be completed this calendar year.
oh, so, thank you.
Chris, is the thinking on those that it'd essentially just be hotspots on the town buildings, or would it be like a mesh network?
Not
That,
sure yet.
okay.
Well, thank you, that's exciting.
Very exciting.
That's what Steve, the Main Street has been completed.
Yes.
Are you comfortable moving the pedestrian?
Safety in front, yeah.
Yeah.
Remove the main streets.
yeah.
Pedestrian safety and traffic.
So moved.
Second?
So, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Public safety staffing plan.
Yeah, both chiefs are here. I'll just get us started here. Hopefully we can get the chief's mic open again as well. This was a new addition to the priority planning list as well. I think this was added perhaps in January after budget season conversations about staffing numbers in both our police and fire departments. The goal here was to try to plan for the future and ensure that our police and fire departments are adequately staffed. If you recall, during budget season, we talked quite a bit about the demand, the increase in calls in both police and fire departments and our growing housing stock here. So I met recently here in this room with both chiefs. We're starting the conversations now. They're gathering data. They've shared some of that data with me already, and I'm sure they'll touch on it tonight. And then we'll start building a staffing plan for each of the departments based on that information. So Chief Story and Chief Turner are here. Chief Turner, do you want to start while we try to get the Chief's Story's mic open again?
Is mine working now?
There.
Can you hear me? All right.
Go ahead, Chief Story.
You got me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we've been working on a strategic plan to try to address the public safety needs, as our community continues to grow. I created an outline to kind of get an idea of how we wanted to do it, and so I have the outline started. I have shared that with Mark, but what we're doing now is we're taking a collection of data, and we're going to look at that data to try to come up with a more realistic idea of the changes in our community. We're going to be comparing that data to years past, recent years past, and also we are increasing the information that we're collecting. And what I mean by that is, for an example, if we have an incident, so I'll use an accident, a motor vehicle accident, for example, we track the time of the call, the time of the response, the time the officer was cleared from that call. But what we don't track is the time that the officer's spending after the incident to follow up, do the investigation, do the reports, and what have you. So that's a new aspect that we're working on putting in place. So when I come to you to show you what the needs are and the changes are within the workload for us, we'll have a better, more accurate idea of the complexity of these investigations. And again, comparing to the prior year. So we're working really to try to identify where our resources are going and how much of those resources are changing. The needs of the community are changing, and if what we need to adequately staff and meet the needs of the community.
Thank you. One question I receive quite often is the mutual aid and how much, are we helping other towns versus how much help do we get from other towns? And I'm sure this is part of your data, but it would be really helpful to have some kind of graph that we can say, we've stepped in and helped these towns, and these towns have stepped in and helped us, just to have some kind of sense of how this works and the mutual aid, because I think there's some sense that we are giving more than we're getting, and just to put that in some perspective, which obviously is not true, but that might be helpful to see.
Under our current staffing model that we've had for many years, we would not be able to really function without mutual aid. Yes, we are slightly busier in some of the communities, but it is give and take. They help us and we help them. And the area that we live in Southern Berkshire, I don't see any agency, any town being able to really work safely without that partnership. So yes, we can definitely track that information, but we do get a lot of help from other agencies because we get busy and we need their help. So
thank you.
Chief Story, we had a really good foundation. The only difference is, so we have the same reporting capabilities, different system, but we can come up with times, we can run numbers for mutual aid in and out. And times that we put into after incidents, majority of the extra time that we have is spent on the life safety inspections that we conduct. It's a lot of admin follow-up to that, and sometimes it's follow-up to the actual inspection itself. So that's where a majority of that comes into. The biggest difference we have is that the prior chiefs before me did a really good job of securing equipment for the department. And that was due to the number and availability of personnel. Each department, when it was separate and after a combination, one station would have 40 or 50 people, or each station would have 40 or 50 people available to respond. And over the years, those numbers have dropped to 18 on-call or volunteer members of the department. So they took really good steps in initiating a part-time staffing model, and then ideas for full-time staffing. But what they didn't consider was the drop-off and the availability of the on-call members. And the majority of that is due to timing of the incidents, as well as, and the majority of it now is Mass being an OSHA state. We have regulations that are coming down within the next year or two that are going to significantly change how we function as a department. And right now, we can't even guarantee where we're going to fall with that. They're leaving it up to each department to determine the level of service that they're going to provide to the community based on their requirements. And on top of that, they've incorporated NFPA. I don't know if you've heard of the National Fire Protection Association. It's always been standards, and they're recommended standards up until something bad happens. And if you go to court, they would throw those standards at you. If you weren't following them, then you were liable. But they were always listed as suggestions. Well, now it's going to be the rule. So they found their way in, and it's not a bad thing. They're there for our safety and public safety. So these are considerations that we have to have. And where we're at right now is I can basically guarantee 1 to 3 people respond to any incident, depending on the time of day. 5 years ago, it was 4 to 7, and I'm sure the cycle has, been consistently downhill. But like I said, right now we have 18 on-call members. So the staffing, that plan that I tried to come up with, it was kind of following where Charlie left off. It was a 1 person a year kind of thing. I think similar to Chief Story's idea. There is a federal grant available, which we tried for this past year, but was unsuccessful. Where we potentially could have added 4. But that really, takes a commitment from the town, putting that money into that project. And it really depends on, I guess, the levels that we want, or we should be able to provide to the community.
I just had a question about the federal grant. That's interesting. So what made us not competitive for that and what could we have done better?
What happened was that the process was, it was a last minute application. It got up to that point, I had all the documents required for that application. And at the end of the application, a little blue button came up to submit, and after submission, there was 3 lines, I think. Not sure if Mark, you were ever able to check that out, but it said pending signatures. And when I got a hold of through email, the individual who oversees the grants, they said that they couldn't submit the grant till the signatures were in place. So I thought that was Mark being the town manager. Mark told me I was listed as well as administrator for the grant. So I went back in to try to sign them and it wouldn't give me access. So I contacted the guy again and he said I shouldn't have been even able to submit the grant without getting the signatures in first. And the little blue icon that says submit should never have lit up. And it did, it was submitted. And then on Monday or Tuesday, the grant was just wiped out. It wasn't as if we didn't even apply for it.
What is the grant and we can apply next year?
So it's a staffing or adequate staffing for firefighters. So through the federal government or FEMA, they'll provide 100% funding for whatever number we determine. Let's say it was 4, which is what I was going for. It would provide 100% funding for 3 years for those positions. After 3 years, the town would have to take up the cost of that for funding.
So it's something we can maybe try again.
So really what it came down to was the town would have, for 3 years, would have to put approximately $125,000 aside to pick up the funding for that position, those 4 positions.
Okay.
So it's something that if we had been successful, we would have come back to this board, have a conversation with the finance committee about whether or not we want to commit to that, because.
But this will be something we could look at again. Is it a
Right.
yearly
It is.
process? Okay, so now we know. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I didn't know about that.
The problem is our commitment, and that's why, you're right, that would be a discussion with the finance committee and select board.
Right,
Because it's a pretty heavy commitment, but it's one that we may need.
right.
And it may involve conversations about a regional approach to fire too, where other neighboring towns may help.
Yeah.
Fund firefighters so that
Yeah.
they're available for mutual aid calls as well. A much larger conversation.
Questions? Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First, weed cleaners company. Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Rebecca, come on.
Yeah.
Sustainable waste management.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Rebecca.
I'm Rebecca Jersey. I just wanted to give you an update on our composting program that started in January at the transportation. This is a program that the board of health really wanted to see in Great Barrington, so we secured some funding to run a pilot program for a couple months. The funding was about $3,000, which got us 7 months worth of composting service at the transfer station. That's unfortunately concluding in the next couple of days, so we're just going to, work with Berkshire Compost, who held that contract, to try to get some data over the last 7 months. So how many users, what was an approximate number of, or weight of food scraps that were removed from the transfer station to more or less determine how successful the program was. So I've heard a little bit of feedback from the community on this program, but I'd love to hear more. So if you can get that word out that I'm, call your health department and let us know if you used the composting service and what you thought about it. Get that information.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it continues and we're able to get more funding to continue that, but I'd be curious of the data when you do get that. You could come back and maybe present it, just to also raise awareness of the importance of composting.
Yeah, I mean, I have a low bar for what success would look like,
Yeah.
if it was used by, 5 people daily, I think that would be a success. But yes, once we get that data,
be more than happy to come back and share with you all.
Yeah. I,
Yeah, good.
just a slight promotion, but, I use that service at my house. They pick it up at my house and I must say, just, shocked by how much it eliminates me actually putting in the garbage itself, and maybe just naive or whatnot, but didn't realize the significant difference in my weekly, monthly, just garbage, there. And so if we did get it fully on board with a lot of residents, I could see that being a significant help to the planet, to garbage costs, all that across the board, landfills. And there was an article on how we started talking about it with the HIC, and it was in, I believe, the New York Times, on how food gas, off-gassing from waste creates more gases than the airline industry. So I'd be happy to share that with everybody as well, because it is significant and it's something simple that everybody can be involved in, so.
Yeah, exactly. This is a local Great Barrington business that came to pick up the composting and the food scraps went back to a local Great Barrington farm. So,
I was just curious of other towns, where we stand with other towns, you know, is this something that Sheffield's doing already and we're catching up, or are we kind of like, you
Yeah.
know, blazing the trail?
no,
So
the
we're-
former, I
yeah.
think more towns, the smaller towns around us are much farther with this
Yeah.
type of program. Egremont is
Yeah.
a shining star with all of their sustainable waste management at their transfer station, and I think even New Marlboro has a consistent composting program at their transfer station, same with Sheffield too.
Yeah, so it's interesting, because you lived in Ireland for years and they, you know, they would weigh it and you would actually get a graph. You know, when you had your bill, it would say like, you know, how heavy was your composting, how heavy was your recycle, and it really, you know, kind of motivated you to keep recycling and composting, and then that would determine how much you paid. So it was so kind of, you know, helpful in terms of weighing, and each month you would get, oh, you know, I've composted this or I've recycled this, and it was really, you know, a good way to be mindful of helping the planet and saving money, so.
Yeah, and we have a pay as you throw program on Great Barrington, is that right? So, you know, the less food scraps you're putting into your trash bag, the less often you have to bring that back to the transfer station.
That's a question. Did you say that they pick up here?
Yeah, I pay for a service monthly, they give me a bucket, I fill it, I leave it on the.
How do I do that? I wouldn't.
I'll be submit on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to do.
I would just say anecdotally, I've been going to the transfer station to take part of this and drop off compost, that those bins. They get there towards the end of the operating hours, they're pretty full, so I do think,
Oh, that's great to hear.
yeah, it's,
Yeah,
it can be a little unpleasant.
Yeah.
If I am that way, but, just curious, what would the cost be for a yearly, to continue this program on our own, or on a yearly basis?
well, I'm not so good at math on the spot, but it is $40 per pickup. And right now, we don't have a secure place at the transfer station to put those bins inside for the weekend, so we're paying, you know, per day to have this removal service. So eventually, according to Joe, one of the goals is to have a permanent shed up at the transfer station, and that would, you know, allow us to make that money go farther. But yeah, so you can do the math on your own time. $40 divided by 3,000 gave us seven months.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Please, Clement.
Reed cleaners. There's, down here at 218 Main Street. Dry cleaning, contaminated properties, the town foreclosed on this, like I mentioned with Cook's Garage earlier, the town foreclosed and owns this. Previous owner has financial inability, and just to be clear, the town's not liable cleaning this up, and we didn't contaminate it. But it's in the town's interest, and the select board has kept this on the priority list because it is a blighted Main Street property that has redevelopment potential. In order to realize that potential, we need to get it clean. So dry cleaning sites take a long time. I did not know that when we started this process. I'm beginning to learn that. Last time I reported to you, I had hoped that we would be able to begin cleanup this calendar year. That will not be the case. We just finished in June, working with EPA, doing another round of assessment work to figure out exactly how to scope the cleanup. That assessment work was extremely comprehensive, doing soil borings and investigation of the water table and air gas monitoring, and all kinds of bedrock monitoring and things like this. More assessment needs to be done. We haven't reached the edges of the contamination in order to really know how to neutralize the contamination that is at this point very, very deep. More assessment needs to be done. And then we can hopefully put our EPA cleanup grant, which we already have in hand, and EPA has generously allowed us to keep now for many years until
We're
we
getting
can use
interest in
it.
that.
And we can begin to put that grant to work. So at this point, we know more than we did last time I reported to you, but not quite enough to start actually.
Are you done? I just wanted to know when we have even a ballpark idea, and hasn't this been going on for, I'll exaggerate a tad, 88 years? It's almost going on as long as we've done water, that's a pretty long time.
I can't tell you when we'll be able to start cleanup. No, I can't tell you that. This has been going on. The town has owned it since, I think, 2018. I can't recall offhand. Before that, previous owners had been investigating as well until they ran out of money. EPA took it over and leased property, or DEP took it over and leased property. So it's been going on at least a decade or more.
Are we spending any money on this in the meantime? If this is costing us money while we're waiting for all this?
This has all been grant funding,
Okay.
except for my time. I mean, you're spending my time.
Well, that doesn't bother.
No, but, you know, just to, you know, be truthful and out there, that is something that you've made a high priority, and so we're doing it. But at this point, we've not spent town funds on the project.
And to be clear, there's no health and safety issues with the post office or coming underneath the library, and
Well,
I know
the
that
post
was.
office is aware of their air quality issues in the basement. It's been like that for many years.
But these new testing, it didn't reveal further
No,
contamination that we.
No. no, we're working on the site to try to figure out what's going on there.
Question? Website URL for email addresses.
We skip to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna go do that next.
Oh,
but
okay, I can go to the website.
Sorry.
So, so the select board was able to get a first look at our new website recently. Your suggested changes and additions are being completed now by our web host. Employees, staff here in town hall, everyone that is normally working with our website behind the scenes, they've all received and completed basic training at this point on the new platform. It will take some time. I fully anticipate there being some hiccups when we launch, because the new platform, even though it's the same host, the new platform, it's a completely different product.
Yeah.
Many more features, far more complex than the platform we're using now, so. We should be going live very soon though. I'm just waiting for a word from Alicia that we're good to go. We'll probably do some refreshment training with staff, since it's been a while since we've completed that, just to make sure everyone's comfortable with it. We have some information that missed we migrated a great deal of information off our current website. Anything that we posted on our website since that migration was completed now needs to be added. We have a comprehensive list of things that need to be added to our website. Staff's working on that now as well. So the good news is we're getting very close, and I'm at some point soon going to be announcing that we're ready to launch and ask for folks' patience. I also want to remind everyone that there's a great deal of information on our current website. it's on our current website because we built that over time. We're unable to migrate all of it. It would cost a fortune for us to do that. So this new website will have the same amount of information eventually, but we're not migrating everything that's currently living on our website. Minutes, things like that, there'll still be permanent records here in town hall. They'll always be available through the town clerk's office. You just won't be able to go back and get minutes from, let's say, 2014, from your computer at home anymore. As far as the .gov URL goes, this is something that's been on our priority list for a long time. We have a new application now pending with the .gov registry. The first two applications that we submitted were rejected. We tried for gbma.gov. We tried for togbma.gov. Both were rejected because they were insufficiently unique. We're trying again for townofgbma.gov, and we've been told that if we submit that application, which we have, it will be approved, but we're still waiting for final approval. Once that happens, we'll be able to shift all of our town emails and website to that new URL. So that's all I have on that one.
Can we drop this to a 2 then?
I'm sorry.
Can we drop this to a 2?
It's almost done, or do we?
Yeah, I know.
Or do we just want to, in our next meeting, just take it off
Yeah,
completely?
I'm on.
I think you'll see that highlighted in green for your January session. I hope.
That'd be good. Short-term rental compliance.
Okay, so I also have this highlighted in green. Not because our work here is done, I just want to be clear, that's not what I'm getting at here. But because the heavy lifting is behind us at this point, the registration portal is up and running. It was built by a consultant, a contractor that works for many cities and towns providing this same service. It's fully operational. We issued 67 fines for unregistered short-term rentals during the first round. We're now up to 100, as a result of issuing those fines, we're now up to 121 licensed host properties in town, Big Barrington and the village of Houston. We just recently, I'm gonna say 3-4 weeks ago, maybe issued second offense fines, but only to 3 hosts that didn't reply to any of our notices, didn't receipt of first fine. So we're making a lot of progress. Natalie in my office is now leading this program. And going forward, it should just be monitoring listings as they pop up. It is something that changes every day. New listings surface, some listings disappear. It does take some monitoring. We don't monitor every day. I just don't have the staff time to do that. Natalie is doing a great job. She's monitoring it on a regular basis whenever time allows. And it's just a matter, like I said, of just keeping an eye on listings, making sure that listings are renewing through our registration portal every year. It's done on a calendar year, and then issuing tickets periodically when all other efforts to get hosts to comply have failed.
I have a question. Thank you for that. So one of the stipulations in the short-term rental bylaw was that, one short-term rental per person, and also to be able to cross-check LLCs and looking at the different managers and make sure that, someone wasn't really hiding behind an LLC. And, really the thought is to deter corporations. We don't want people coming in and buying properties and taking long-term housing. So just curious about that part of it. If you've seen people trying to, go around it or hide between LLCs.
We're not seeing much of that. Every application is reviewed before it's approved. So we do have a spreadsheet. It's only 121 hosts. We don't have that many STRs, so it's manageable. Every application that we receive, though, we do cross-check the list to make sure that there isn't another property listed under that name or under the same address or anything like that. So it's not a completely foolproof system. Somebody, I'm sure, is getting by, but it is, like I said, each and every application is reviewed closely before it's approved. And we have rejected applications. People have tried to register 2 short-term rentals, and we basically just contact them and say, pick one.
Yeah.
We're only registering one, so. which one?
Yeah, so anecdotally, I've heard that it has been successful in terms of deterring that type of person that would come in, so that's good. Thank you.
It's just removable, or
Yeah, I think it is.
I think it is.
Yeah, I don't think it's any different than annual licenses at this point, and I don't think there's any need to have it on the.
Well, thank you to the staff for really following through. I know it's hard to get this off the ground.
Like I said, the heavy lifting is done at this point, it's just regular monitoring.
So we're removing.
Well, I need a motion in a second.
I make a motion to remove the STR line item.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, as we did last time, I think. We'll go into new high priority project from the select board and moderate, we can talk about at a meeting that's. You know, we have a regular meeting that doesn't have a lot on it. Instead of dragging this out, so new high priority projects that anyone would like to add.
I have one that I would like to bring up that, whether it's a high priority or moderate, I'll leave it up to the board. But I would like to propose the select board and town staff start the discussion, for a NIP, as I call them, single use, serving of liquor bottles to be banned in the town of Great Barrington, so I would propose it to be anything from 100 milliliters or less. And I know it would bring on a big discussion, and that's what I'm looking to start. After announcing it a few meetings ago or a couple months ago, I've received a lot of emails, both a lot for and looking forward to it. And I've received several from store owners very concerned about it. So it's something that I would like to put forward in front of this board, in front of town staff, and in front of the citizens as we move forward. There's a lot of high priorities on this list that rank a lot higher for me, but it is something that I would like to place in front of this board. So.
Well, I have no feelings one way or another until there's more research done, but you want to put this as high priority, like in number 3 or moderate priority?
I would put it in like a 2 to 3 range, yes.
So why don't you make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to put as I call it, a NIP band as a high priority and as a number 2.
Second.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what other towns have done,
Yes.
et cetera. I'm
Yeah.
not commenting. whether
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
worth talking.
I'm not commenting. I'd like more research and discussion
Same.
and definitely bringing the health factor in and having some recovery coaches and talk about the effect of health.
I think even the conversation that we had during, which was just like part of select board announcement, a few weeks ago, brought up many different angles
Yeah.
on it. So like, I think it's worth talking
I think
about.
starting discussion is that worth it.
Yeah.
Really worth it.
Sounds good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, anyone else? Yes.
So I have some things just kind of that do affect some of the
Sure.
lower end, childcare. I was hoping to talk about forming a committee possibly made up of local parents, childcare providers, and, town liaison. I know just having this be a staff only task is probably too big a lift, but that's why I kind of think forming something that brings the community together to start talking about it, and especially as the Healy administration is actually starting to move forward with programs on this and more funding, having a plan in place to kind of make sure that we are providing everything we can. So I just wanted to start kind of actually forming a group to create action items.
We can put that on the agenda. Talk about.
Okay. And then parking downtown, I was asking Mark a bit about this. When was the last time we did a parking study?
Street reconstruction.
Parking, so what do you mean by parking? So you mean just a count of the parking or an actual like management study of how the spaces are used?
Yeah, usage and. Yeah.
It was before our time.
Okay, so it's been,
Yeah, it was, like Jennifer and Ed, maybe.
We had the proposal for the new parking lot, but I don't think that included
A full comprehensive parking study is.
yeah. I think that's something that would be kind of worth our time to kind of look into, you know, I think over the last few years. Anything that old obviously is out of date by this point, and I think as we are kind of having conversations about a lot of things that are top priorities, that will play into it. Finding a solution, I think. To help people who work in town and live in town as well as visit town and just kind of coming up with a better solution. I really do think that that is going to become increasingly important. So I think having the data on hand to kind of have a plan would be really helpful. So I just want to kind of.
So I think that's probably something that we'll talk about, whether there's grants available, and if not, that goes into the budget cycle for finance committee and select board, so.
Claudia Shapiro, 70 Mount Plain Road. I have a very high priority. The Colostic Great Barrington Regional General Aviation Community Business that was permitted last in 2003 on an approximate locus. I've been struggling with, trying to get information from the board, despite being the owner of the end of the runway that I control and maintain. I've been not included in the permitting process, so I would appreciate it if the town government in its entirety could really make that a very high priority and be open and transparent with me as to where my life is going. And I'm also going to state that at the July 22nd Board of Health meeting, I believe it was the 20th or 23rd, I got, yes, and the planning board July 25th meeting, I stated that the last normal day I had living inside this community was January 28, 2010. Mr. Hankin asked me to elaborate. I told him at the time that he and Mr. Rembold were just as qualified as me to answer. And tonight I'm adding you, Mr. Perinsky, to the list because you have flat out been traumatizing me. Mr. Bannon, you're traumatizing me. Lee Davis, you're traumatizing me. Period. End of story.
Anyone else from the select board have anything else
To that or any?
to the priorities?
Well, I do have a little concern, and I guess it actually was on the completed project. I can remember this one of the first EV charging stations. I can remember this wasn't the first thing, one of the first things they voted on. And we had decided at the time that I think they wanted to put them on Railroad Street, and we were going to make them paid stations. I want to know if this is still the same. That these are going to be paid stations, because if they aren't, I have a problem with that, because we already had stated 3 years ago that we were going to make the ones that we proposed to be paid.
Yeah, they're there.
Okay.
Excellent. Will you let me talk about all that?
There are two
Yeah, you're excited.
iconic parking lot, they're paid stations, we collect revenue, I don't know how much revenue we collect at this point, but we can
Thank you.
share that with you.
Thank you.
It's more than the cost of the electricity used, more
Thank you.
than the cost of the town.
I had to charge a rental there. I think it's about $6 for 2 hours or something, so.
Please.
So I know that I wanted to bring up the rest of the river status. So this is, still making its way through a revised plan for the quality of life compliance plan. And the transportation plan. So I want to keep that on our radar. There were revisions, there were comments that were given, and the EPA is going to come back with revisions. No later than November 22nd. Yeah, sorry, GE, yes, excuse me, thank you, GE, is gonna come back with revisions no later than November 22nd, thank you, Chris. With a public input period to follow, and, this will have a direct impact in some way on Great Barrington, especially Housatonic. And I just want to flag this, that this is actually something that we really, really need to keep an eye on and, join the other towns of the rest of the river, especially town of Lee. And that we should just be actively making sure that our voices are heard, with respect to trucks coming down, Front Street and Housatonic, and making sure that we are advocating for ourselves. I know other towns, or West Stockbridge was successful in, making sure it doesn't go down their main street. So I think it's really important that, I'll certainly be at these meetings, but that we just know that this is happening. The EPA cleanup is estimated to take 13 years. And so there's different reaches, and we're one of the last. but it will have an effect on the quality of life in this town. And so I think it's super, super important. And, you know, with executive sessions, if they ever come forward, it's just, it's good to know that. So that was just something I wanted to raise, that it's something active. And then, you know, there's the business district. You know, there is some tension between what's happening with Berkshire Busk. And I know that there's a meeting going on between some of the business owners in downtown and Railroad and some folks. And, you know, I think we should be really, really proud of Great Barrington and all that we've, you know, really done over these years. And, you know, there's no, as far as I know, there's no vacancies in downtown, and it's really the life of an envy, from what I can see, of southern Berkshire County towns, and to kind of embrace that. And if there's any, you know, fracturing of, you know, the feeling of the town not supporting certain businesses, I think we need to get ahead of that and really celebrate that. And I know the, you know, downtown district never really quite took off, but maybe just to explore that, because I would hate to, you know, lose the energy and the momentum, the celebration, all that. So say Berkshire Busk has brought, all that, you know, this board has brought in terms of re-energizing this town. And, you know, I can certainly feel a palatable energy, and, you know, with kids that are, you know, coming in and, you know, they have places to go. And, you know, so I want to kind of bring that awareness that I think we are doing a good job. And, you know, there are certainly challenges with bridges and infrastructure and so forth. But just to, you know, put it in everyone's awareness that I think, you know, we're doing a good job, and we could always do better. And we want to make sure there's a discourse and communication, but just, you know, kind of help our businesses and make sure that they know that we're listening. So.
Yeah, I just jump on that with you, Lee. I think it shows just by all the new business licenses we passed, that a lot of the new, whether bars, restaurants, and young entrepreneurs that have come to town. Very evident in downtown Great Barrington and down, you know, over on the other side of Route 7 on Stockbridge Road. So a lot of new stores opening up, and everybody does want to be in Great Barrington, and I'm sure there will be disagreements, but you know, a lot of compromise and discussions like the one that will be happening is the way we need to do and keep doing business like we have been. So.
I just had one more thing.
Of course.
On the speed bumps, speed calming measures, I see there's not really any actual progress on that one. I'm curious though, we're currently collecting data on any of the machines that like kind of display speeds, is that?
The radar, the solar.
The
radar
yeah.
Units on, you're talking about East Street.
Yes, well, and in general, but
Any of those units in town are collecting data. The trailers are also collecting data.
Yeah. And so do we have that data at hand?
I think you posted on the website.
Yeah.
That's just up on the
It's
website.
generally posted.
Yeah,
on the police department.
I could put, yeah, we have on our portal, on our website, we post all that from the speed trailers we do, not from the speed signs, but from the speed trailers, we post that up.
Is the data from the signs available anywhere, Chief?
That we do not post. And the reason is usually the locations of the speed sign are at request of people from the community. And after we have it there for a week or two, we get that information so that they can see it. The stationary signs, we historically have not posted that information.
But the permanent one on North Plain or East Street, is that?
Correct. We don't post that, only the speed signs. I can look at to see what it would take to do that. But that is not on our website, but just the speed trailers.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would just kind of like to start the process of actually looking into that data to, you know, I've been fielding comments from people in different neighborhoods about concerns. And so I know data is kind of the starting point for this. So I'm just like to be able to.
So the information from the stationary signs probably won't be as complete as the speed trailer.
Yeah.
But I will see what that looks like and see what we can do to get it for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Perfect.
I'm wondering if we can move the master plan review up to 1. It seems like it's been a while, I guess, right, since 2013?
Well, we're gonna have a joint meeting with the planning.
Okay, good.
In
Needs to be a 1.
August.
Yeah.
So August, September.
I think we.
Is this
It may be one, I can't remember, there's two dates floating out there between the two boards later for
Wait,
consideration.
give me a second, let's get that.
September and October.
Now, Brandy came up with 2 dates. Master plan review, yep, you're right, for September 23rd or October 7th. So I think Natalie sent an email out making sure everyone's gonna be available then.
It should be regular select board meetings already in your calendar. The reason I asked her to send it out to you though was if any of you are traveling or for whatever reason can't make that night, just let us know. Otherwise, we don't hear from you. We're gonna assume that both dates are good and we'll figure out which of those 2 agendas work best for us.
In September.
Yeah, start time, we could.
When is September?
also.
So September 23rd and no.
On October 7th.
Oh, they're right here.
There are
They're
regular
already here.
meetings.
Yeah.
There are regular meeting nights.
Yeah.
Because I gave them the choice of us going to them or them coming to us, they offered to come to us. So it'll just, as long as everything's equal and everyone's available, we'll just find the one with a quietest agenda.
Thank you.
Anything else for the select board?
What's the status of the Main Street pedestrian safety and traffic?
We removed that.
You did remove it, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is this about priority planning or citizen speech?
Recommendation for a high priority item, or is that only citizen speak?
Yeah, come on up. You're a board, member of one of the boards.
Hi,
Yes.
Julie Anninger, 15 Sumner Street. I'd like to make a recommendation that trees be part of our master plan. Tree maintenance, tree planting. Last year, at town meeting, we were granted 20,000 for planting of new trees. We've used almost all of that budget and we've put in about 25 trees. What we're seeing in the meantime are more requests from private citizens to add more trees to the sidewalks in front of their houses. We're also getting a lot of feedback from people who are maintaining town trees at their personal expense. Large trees that they're no longer able to afford to keep. We're seeing insect damage that could be prevented with inoculation and regular maintenance. My fear and the tree committee's fear is that fallen limbs are going to be reported to the town as indication that the tree is failing and that maybe some action to like remove those trees that are potentially healthy are going to be taken instead of just maintenance. I need tree committee has been meeting for almost 2 years now, and we're doing everything we can to brainstorm other ways of funding planting. We're talking to the local nurseries and asking them for maybe a few donations at the end of their sales season so that we can put in maybe up to 3 to 5 trees. We're losing many more every year. And it's just not something that will maintain forever. I think it's something that's going to be a major priority. What we're seeing from across Massachusetts are towns that have urban reforestation initiatives that are being funded by the local governments as well as the state. I'd love us to look into that. Our tree canopy is old. The ones that we are planting, some of them, of course, some percentages are failing. So we just need to like actively focus on year-to-year maintenance. It's just become part of another ecological initiative. Rest of the river, the composting, I think it all goes hand in hand. We have a beautiful new pedestrian roadway in Lake Mansfield to the beach. Very, very uncomfortable to walk without the tree cover. At the last Parks and Recreation meeting, some people have actually, during the citizens meeting, spoken about how difficult it is to just like use that path. I suggested maybe like in the meantime painting like white stripes, so to make it more comfortable. But obviously a tree canopy is going to be incredibly and increasingly important, especially to just lower the overall temperature of the town. We talk about that all the time at the committee meeting, the tree committee, and from our parking lots, I think we have to look at models of development that incorporate more and larger tree wells.
Main Street is incredibly important. I think the canopy is not suited to the scale of our town, especially with the width of our roadway. The tree walls are much too small. I don't know, if there's still any kind of, motivation to reduce the width of the road. I know that it was brought up a few years ago, at select board meeting. Just there are a lot of things that just are going to be part of like a larger inclusive model, and I think trees are gonna be incredibly important. Just turning from Alfred Road onto Castle Hill Avenue, it's, you know, a matter of like 15 degrees difference in cooling. It's immediate. And it's also something that will definitely affect just pedestrian traffic, tourist traffic. When it's hot outside and there's a heat wave, there are definitely less people on Main Street, and they're not shopping and they're not eating out. They're staying in or they're at the river, which is great too. But I think this is going to have to be something that we just need to address. I can't come to every town meeting and beg for $20,000, which buys 20 trees when we're removing about 100 trees, you know, or I know where Joe is, but we have all the statistics. The town, the tree warden has all the statistics. We apply every year for recognition from the National Arbor Day Foundation. I travel extensively throughout Massachusetts for my work, and there are a community that are not as wealthy as Great Barrington, and their tree canopy is outstanding. I mean, they really care about their heritage trees, their new plantings. I know that in Southfield, I was recently there, and there were trees just waiting to be planted, and there were signage that said free trees for Southfield. So communities are more and more thinking about how important tree canopy is going to be. Roads, bridges, all of that is very important, but I think that to maintain a town that is like a very livable, human scale and comfortable, we have to really think about it. Probably this is maybe a planning board issue, but I'd love the tree committee to be just an active advisory committee with town planning. I know that trees are part of the master plan, but I just don't see any funding or any kind of commitment towards that. And I'm not alone, and I feel like every time I bring this up, it's just like, because I love trees, but it's not true. Everybody here loves trees. And I just think we just need to be more vocal about it and really commit. If we're committing to composting, which I use that service by the way, and the river and cleaning up the lake, I think the trees are just gonna be an important part. Joe has requested that every time we ask for trees to be planted, that we receive permission from the people who are residents who abut like and we've been doing that, even though these are private, public right of ways. So we've tried to be very compliant, but you know, it's 7 of us, and we're talking to the nurseries. We even want like to initiate some program with the high school to just raise saplings so that we can use them year over year. But I think we really need dedicated funding from the town in addition to those things. We're doing everything we can, but we need more.
So just so you know, if we put this on the priority planning, doesn't guarantee funding, you know that, but I'm
Yes,
just
I
being
know, I
clear. It puts you in line when it's budget season to have a higher priority, but the finance committee and select board ultimately will make that decision, but it does put you in a higher.
I totally understand
Yeah,
that,
I
but
know.
I think it needs just to be like, you know, it's part of our town, you know, it's the landscape of our town.
Negative, John.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so just, I mean, I'm 100% with you, and I think we really need to pay attention to the power of trees and the fact that it's infrastructure. I mean, it's something that's gonna, you know, really lift up this community and, you know, mitigates the climate crisis that we're in, and we need to think forward thinking how we can really lay the generations of trees. I'm getting so excited about trees. But I'm 100%, and I would gladly make a motion to put this in the high priority section. Thank you, Chris.
No, I also call it critical infrastructure.
Yes, absolutely.
You have a second. Second discussion. All in favor?
Thank you.
Anyone else with a priority plan? Non-citizen speak to priority plan.
Hello, my name is Nora Fernandez and I live on 115 Brashby Road. I'm not that sexy as the trees discussion, but I think the bridges and maintenance of the roads should be a high priority.
It is on there.
but I didn't see, that's why I'm.
Yeah, no, it's,
Infrastructure.
infrastructure, bridges, roads, sidewalks, complete streets. It's about middle of the way through, yeah.
Maybe we should bring it forward.
Those aren't in any special order except for the
Okay.
county water. so
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's right here.
Citizens speak. Anyone who wants to speak, state your name and address, give Barrington residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, and in consideration of your time, I'd like to speak sequentially. Deborah Ryan, 116 Brush Hill Road, I'll be quickly, thanks for providing this opportunity to speak to you about town priorities. I'm representing Brookside neighbors, and I'm going to read a statement on all of our behalf. In the 2013 master plan, the 5-year master plan, that clearly stated that bridge repairs be prioritized. Noting that roads, sidewalks, water, and specifically aging bridges needed to be maintained, it stated, to afford these, we may have to reduce funding for other services and priorities and or raise more revenue. I can tell you as a resident that our tax increases prove that the raising more revenue part is running smoothly. Since at least 2013, the select board's been well aware of our failing bridges. When the Division Street Bridge was closed, the town went on record to say that the Mass DOT had not warned them in time to plan for it. Rather than wait 6 years for the state to replace that bridge, a decision was made to allocate taxpayer funds to hire an engineering company to do an alternatives assessment and to build a temporary one-lane bridge, while the town waited for replacement to be paid for by the state. In 2021, the town was sent a safety engineer's report about another bridge, the Brookside Bridge. This report unequivocally said that the bridge had, and I quote, seriously deteriorated and needed to be repaired as soon as possible. And that upon receipt of this inspection report, repair should be initiated by the town. With that warning from the state, the Mass DOT had passed the responsibility to the town to act. So despite believing that Mass DOT had underreported the seriousness of other bridges, a decision was made by the town to ignore repeated warnings from the very same Mass DOT about the Brookside Bridge. The state did have an obligation to return and re-inspect the Brookside Bridge within the next 2 years, at least by the spring of 2023. The state was a year late. They didn't come again until this year, 2024. At this time, they found that no repairs had been made and they declared bridge no longer safe. I know this because I showed up about 5 minutes after they declared it no longer safe and the sheriff was there turning us away. They closed the bridge 3 months ago on May 2nd, 2024. So what has the town done with their bridge in the years since receiving these warnings and the directive from Mass DOT to make repairs? No repairs were made. No alternative repair assessment was conducted. No restrictions on travel across the bridge were ever enforced to help prolong the life of the bridge. And in anticipation of the inevitable closure of Brookside Bridge and the absurd necessary timeframe for replacement, no town funds have been allocated, no exploration or application for federal or state funds has been made to our knowledge, and no plan for getting timely emergency services to residents was even considered. What else? No thought was given to the shortest available detour. If anyone cared, it should have been obvious that the shortest available detour on East Sheffield Road needed major repair. It is totally dangerous. And as Joe Aberdale reminded us tonight, roads are our #1 asset. And fixing them now would save the cost of fixing them later. So since that closure, rather than paving, which would make it a bit safer, this town has put up barriers to take the road down to 1 lane and to stuffily remind us that East Sheffield Road is a, quote, not recommended alternative. Suggested for us is the recommended route, which would take us a further 10 miles out of our way. Or perhaps we could take the Tri-Town connector and ask them, as has been suggested, to pick us up on the other side of the bridge. So we walk across the dangerous bridge. Brookside Bridge has clearly not been a priority. And we need you to make it one.
Next is Sharon Shalhoub. She's online. We alternate.
I know, but I'm.
We're alternating. That's what we do.
Follows this.
Right, I understand, but this is how we run this.
Thank you. Thanks again.
No, you can go next. You'll be able to go next. No problem. We'll hear you. Sharon, you're unmuted.
Yes, thank you. I'm chair of the Board of Library Trustees, and I'm coming to ask that we put on our high priorities a townwide accessibility assessment so that we are in line to receive grants for accessibility improvements, in particular in our libraries, but I'm sure in all of the other renovations moving forward in town, we could be guided by this kind of study.
Sure, we'll put that on the agenda when we do moderate priority, and we'll have some more information on that. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks.
Now you go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Elaine Fagan. I live at 101 Brush Hill Road. Thank you for providing this opportunity to speak directly to the Select Board about town priorities. I'm also representing Brookside Bridge Neighbors Group and will read a statement highlighting some of our very targeted concerns. In 2022, the town announced clear strategic priorities. First and foremost, and I quote, to ensure the public safety and public health of its residents. At a minimum, that must mean not just the access to, but timely access to police, ambulance, and fire. The closing of Division Street Bridge never cut its residents off from timely services given the alternative routes. Yet, the Select Board decided to build a prefabricated bridge that gave residents access in less than 3 years. The generally accepted standard for response time for life-threatening injuries and illnesses, such as heart attack or stroke, is 5 to 7 minutes. Compare that to Brookside's 15-minute one-way added delay. Very recently, in 2 instances, to get to Camp Eisner after a fire alarm, the Great Barrington Fire Department had 2 choices: go the long detour with an added 15-minute delay, or go the shorter unsafe detour with an added 10-minute delay down East Sheffield Road, where trucks are prohibited. The road becomes 1 lane at one point, the speed limit is 20 miles per hour, and the potholes are everywhere. The Great Barrington Fire Department chose to go down the unsafe, shorter detour each time. They chose to save the extra minutes. And for good reason. A child's life could have been at risk. An alternative is that Sheffield may provide emergency services more quickly. We wonder what the taxpaying residents of Sheffield think about having to make up for the failure of Great Barrington to care for its own residents. The only decision Great Barrington seems to have made about the safety risks for Brookside residents is for us to wait until the state picks up the cost of total replacement and provide access, whether it's 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now. That's too long to wait. Great Barrington was once listed as the #1 best small town in the country by Smithsonian Magazine. Today is the day to live up to that reputation. The residents on Brush Hill Road alone likely pay more than $500,000 in taxes to the town every year. The town has in turn pledged to us to use this money to prioritize as most important the public safety and public health of its residents. With that priority in mind, our tax dollars are supposed to go for waste management, water, and emergency services. Yet most of us impacted by the bridge pay for our own waste services and don't use the town's water. What is crucial to us, what we need, are the promised emergency services to deal with the inevitable: illness, accident, carbon monoxide, fire, criminal trespass, or theft. Emergency services are just that, urgent. They must be provided in a timely manner or prove useless. So what are we asking for? Prioritize our safety and health needs as promised. Do what is necessary to allocate funds immediately for an expedited repair by an authorized engineering firm to make at least a 1-lane bridge accessible in less than 2 years for community residents and emergency vehicles.
Thank you. The one online, so probably here next.
Frank Dunsmore again, 26 Hemlock Hill. One is a comment and the other is a follow-up, which I didn't get an answer. The comment is that your trees, correct me if I'm wrong, The work that's being done at the library was raised by townsfolk, correct? Or was that government money? I'm under the impression it was Great Barrington citizens wanting to do that and also have the Du Bois statue there. If that's the case, I would suggest that you form a committee of Great Barrington beautification. And you want $20,000? If the committee raises $20, dollar for dollar, the town puts in $20. That means every year we raise $40,000 for trees. I don't know if that's an acceptable plan, but I think it would be great, and this town has shown generosity for beautification or whatever, and I think that would be important. The other thing is, I took a friend to Hudson today, and I went through South Edinburgh. And if you've been on that road, 23, you'll notice that they have spent a fortune beautifying that road, which used to have ruts, and now it's been completely done. That's a much smaller town than this. So I asked a question earlier, whether or not we have tapped into the roads, bridges, and tunnels that the federal government is funding now all over the country, billions of dollars. I'm not faulting anybody. I asked a question before, are we in fact into that with the state, with the federal government? Because all of these things that have been mentioned tonight, which sound like they're just on top of us like a tsunami, I look at them and I say, we need help. We're a great town. I refer to this town, I think I told you, Steve, as Bedford Falls, and It's a Wonderful Life. Because that's the feeling I get in this town. And I really would love to see us get things done, not just on our own. Sorry.
Anyone else? Select board time. Yeah.
Just thank you to everyone for their comments tonight, for coming out and being a part of this process. It's clear we have a lot of work to do, more than this giant spreadsheet even captures, so let's get to it.
Okay.
Yes, I just want to let people know, we also live in this town and we are citizens and we are affected by everything that happens in this town as well. You elected us, we are trying, I personally ran for office because I didn't like some of the things that were going on in town. And I wanted to try to do the best I can. I'm always available for questions. You see me, ask me, I'll try to get you an answer. But I do want you to know, we do live here. And the things that affect you affect us as well. So don't think that we're not thinking of you. Don't think we're someone else, that we're apart from you. We are not. We're all a part of the same team. It's just, there are things that have to be done certain ways, and we're trying to do them the correct way. We have everyone in mind. I live up by the lake. I may not be as inconvenienced, but I have been inconvenienced as well. I can't go the back way anymore. An ambulance has to go around. So I get it. It's maybe not as crucial as you, but it's been going on and I've had that issue for a while. So again, I just want to reiterate, we live here, we hear you, it affects us as well. Thank you.
No, it's,
Media time. Yeah, you, Eileen, I got the edge. Seeing none, by unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.